DJ Rockstar.
Niggas know me from way back. The same little nigga used to hustle and slang crack. Hint at your own wrist.
Shalom once again. My name is Daniel Ben-Yaakov, and we're going to bring another lesson in support of the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments. We're going to show from out of the so-called New Testament. We're going to continue on showing from the so-called New Testament how the Most High's laws are not done away with, contrary to what Christianity preaches and what some brothers calling themselves Israelites have preached. We're going to go through just like we've been doing for these past few weeks and continue on to bring this truth. Brother Yeshay, open up to 1 Timothy chapter 4. We're going to break down 1 Timothy chapter 4. We're going to bring the truth through the Spirit of the Most High. We're going to show what's really being taught in 1 Timothy chapter 4. And mainly we're going to be focusing on verses 3 through 5. But start in verse 1.
All right. Now the Spirit speaks expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
Okay? So it says some are going to depart from the faith. All right? And they're going to give heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Okay, read on.
Speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron.
Go ahead.
Forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from food or meats, which the Mighty One had created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth.
Okay, some Christians might read that scripture and say that this means that you can eat unclean meat, okay? But if you go back and read verse 2.
Verse 2. Speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron.
Okay? So these are lies and hypocrisy that's being taught. Now are the laws of the Most High lies and hypocrisy? Are the laws of the Most High doctrines of demons or devils? Okay, now where in the Most High's law, where in Torah are people forbidden to get married? Does not the law tell us to be fruitful and multiply? Okay, so we can tell this is not talking about the commandments that are written in the first 5 books of the Bible. All right, there's something else being spoken of. Where you at?
I'm in verse 4.
Read on.
For every creature of the Mighty One is good, and nothing to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving.
So they say that means you can eat just whatever you want. Every creature from the Most High is good, and nothing is to be received, you know, as long as you pray over it, basically. Now that's what I was taught when I was coming up in church, you know. Just pray over whatever you eat. But you'll find that the people who preach this, you know, when they're praying over these pork chops, they end up with heart disease. So that prayer is not effective. Okay? So let's bring out the real understanding of what's being said here. Go back on forbidding to marry. All right, when it says these people who are departing from the faith and bringing out these doctrines of devils, forbidding to marry. Okay, it's a doctrine of devils because it's not written in the Most High's word. All right, so we're going to go through some history because many of you out there, you don't know the history of these things, of the times. You don't know what was taking place during the 1st century when the Messiah walked the earth, when the apostles walked the earth. So we're going to go back and get you some history. And we're going to find out what groups of people back then forbid people to marry and told people to abstain from so-called meats. All right, let's find this out. We already know in modern times you have the Catholic Church, okay, they forbid their priests to marry. All right, that's just the priests. But we're going to find out a group who was around during the 1st century who forbid people to marry. Okay, I want you to. We're going to see what Adam Clark's commentary has on 1 Timothy 4, 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. What is that, verse 3? Yeah, go ahead and read that.
Forbidding to marry. These hypocritical priests pretending that a single life is much more favorable to devotion and to the perfection of the Christian life. This sentiment was held by the Essenes, a religious sect among the Jews, and we know that is a favorite opinion among the Romanists, who oblige all their clergy to live a single life by a vow of conscience.
Okay, so we can see that back then, the Essenes forbid people to marry. The members of the Essenes, and the Essenes had several groups within that sect. But for the most part, the Essenes forbid people to marry. But then it says the Romanists, who are the Catholics, they didn't allow their priests or their clergy to marry. Go ahead.
To abstain from meats. Both among the heathens, Jews, and Romanists, certain meats were prohibited. Some always, others at particular times. This, the apostle informs us, was directly contrary to the original design of God. It says that those who know the truth know this. That's Adam Clark's commentary on the Bible on 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3.
All right, so we can see from Adam Clark's commentary that, and he's just bringing out history. That's why we're using that commentary. But we're going to give you more witnesses on this topic. All right, so we can see from Adam Clark's commentary that the Essenes forbid their members to get married, and also forbid their members to eat meat. All right, let's see what we have another resource that we have from the Essenes and the Lessons by Oliver Manatera.
Groups among the Essenes who forbid marriage and the eating of meats. The school strongly condemns slavery in all forms of servility. No Essene could have a servant. That was a sin. So was working only to make money, which in the end translates into a certain kind of slavery. Slavery and servility were, for them, things related to the existence of dark and demonic entities, and belonged to what they called the world of divine anger. Pay attention to this part. Any man or woman who was even merely affiliated with the community had to free his slaves and abstain from eating meat. For them, slavery was also tied to the fact of being carnivorous, because he who could not stop eating animal flesh and drinking blood could not control the passions of his animalistic character.
Okay, so you can see how the Essenes would teach it contrary to the Most High's word. Okay, because the Most High created clean meat for us to eat. Okay, unclean animals weren't even considered food. All right, we can go back into Leviticus chapter 11 and Deuteronomy chapter 4, and you can see what the Most High, the creatures that the Most High created for us to eat. All right, and anyone who preaches contrary to that, whether they're saying that you must be a vegetarian, because you have some groups out there that enforce that and say that's the law. You know, but if a person wants to be vegan, that is by choice. That's not by the word of the Most High. That's simply a personal choice, maybe for health reasons or to help them keep kosher. Okay, so let's get back into the text here. All right, we left off on verse 3, right? All right, read verse 4.
Okay. For every creature of the mighty one is good, nothing to be refused, if it be received with thanksgiving.
Okay, so does that mean that you can eat anything that roams the earth, every creature, which their word means creation? Does that mean you can be a cannibal and eat people? All right, but if you go back up to verse 3, when it says forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats which the Mighty One hath created to be received with thanksgiving. Okay? That's why I said you can go back in Leviticus chapter 11 and Deuteronomy 14 and you can see what the Most High created to be consumed by us. That's what it means in verse 4 when it says everything created, every creation. Okay, for every creature of Mighty One is good. That's what it's talking about. Read verse 5.
For it is set apart by the word of the Mighty One and prayer.
Okay, so it said it is sanctified by the word. What is the word? That's the law and the prophets. Okay, give me right with me Leviticus chapter 11. Leviticus chapter 11, read verse 46.
This is the law of the beast and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten.
That's right. Read on.
Chapter 12, verse 1.
No, my bad. It was verse 45. Verse 45. Start there.
Leviticus chapter 11, verse 45. For I am Yahweh that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt, to be your mighty one. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of the beast and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten.
Okay, so part of being holy is by eating eating clean food. That's part of being holy, just like the Most High is holy. All right, so when you go back to 1 Timothy, and you read, what is it, verse 4? Go ahead, read that again.
For every creature of the Mighty One is good, nothing to be refused, if it be received with thanksgiving.
Go ahead.
For it is set apart by the word of the Mighty One and prayer.
Okay, it was made holy. It was set apart. I think I have a definition on that. The word is sanctified.
Sanctified, the Strong's. It's word number 30 Greek, in the Greek, word number 37. Hagi ado, to make holy, that is ceremonially purify or consecrate, to venerate, hallow, be holy, sanctify.
Okay? So, the only unclean food is not part of being holy. That's taught in Torah. In Leviticus chapter 11, verse 45, it says, you got to be holy like the Most High is holy. And he tells you in order to do that, you have to abstain from eating these other animals and creeping things, which are not even considered food, and eat the meat that he considers to be clean. That is part of being holy or set apart. That's part of being sanctified. Okay, so it says these things were sanctified through the word of the Most High. They were considered holy. But for another group of people to come and say, you can't eat clean meat, that's a doctrine of devils, because that's going against the word of the Most High. All right? The law is not a doctrine of devils. So anybody out there preaching that, you're speaking against the Most High. You're calling the Most High the devil. You're saying his words are the words of a devil. All right? But let's even prove that first. Let's see. Give me Romans chapter 7. Romans chapter 7, I want you to read verse 12. We're going to see what the Most High, or what we're going to see what the Apostle Shaul said about the Most High's law. Because the Apostle Shaul, he wrote the letter to Timothy. So you know he's not going to contradict himself. Read.
All right. Verse 12, Romans chapter 7. Wherefore the law is holy.
The law is what?
Holy.
The law is evil?
Holy.
Go ahead.
And the commandment holy, and just, and good.
Jump on down to verse 15.
For that which I allow.
My bad. Verse 14.
Okay. For if we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
Okay, so Shaul says the law is holy. He says it's just and good. He also says the law is spiritual. So if you want to be a holy person, you got to do what the Most High tells you to do in His Torah, in His Word. If you want to be a spiritual person, you got to adhere to what's being taught in the Torah. Okay, not any man-made religions. You can't take the religions that came about in what 4th century and apply it to the Most High's way. That's wickedness. And you're also being wicked. Anyone who says that okay, so anyone who says that 1 Timothy chapter 4 verses 3 through 5 is speaking of the law, those teaching the law, forbidding to eat meat and this and that. Anyone who says that is speaking against the Most High, clearly. All right, but let's go on down. We got a little bit more. This is a quick lesson just to destroy some false teachings out there. You know, because many brothers have a hard time breaking these scriptures down. You know, and some, you know, instead of breaking the scripture down, they'll jump to something else instead of addressing it. So this lesson is mainly, you know, edification for brothers out there who are sincere, who really need to learn the proper breakdowns on these scriptures. Okay, where do we leave off?
We left off at verse 14, Romans 7.
Go back to 1 Timothy chapter 4. Okay, read verse 5.
Verse 5.
Go ahead.
For every creature of the mighty one is good, nothing to be refused, if it be received with thanksgiving. For it is set apart and sanctified by the word of the mighty one and prayer.
Go ahead.
And you shall be a good minister of YHWH HaMashiach, nourished up in the words of faith and of good doctrine, whereunto you have carefully followed or attained.
Now it talks about good doctrine, and that doctrine is taught in Torah. There was never any new doctrine that the Most High taught, or the Most High never sent any prophets or His Messiah to come and teach anything different. All right, but I want you to back on up real quick. I want to touch on one thing that Shaul said in verse 3.
Read that again.
Yeah, read verse 3. That's Psalm 119.
Forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from food or meats, which the mighty one had created to be received with thanksgiving, of them which believe and know the truth.
Of them which believe and know the truth. What is the truth? According to Scripture. If we know what a lie is, and we know what sin is, let's find out what the truth is. Psalm 119, verse 142.
Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth.
Thy law is a lie.
Thy law is the truth.
Thy law is the truth. All right. Now then, Shaul mention those who know the truth. Jump on down to verse 151. All the commandments, all of them are the truth. Go ahead.
Thou art near, O Yahweh, and all thy commandments are true. Concerning thy testimonies, I have known of old that thou hast founded them forever.
That's right. They were founded forever. All right. So you brothers out there that's kicking this stuff about the law, or what you call the Mosaic Law, which is the Most High's law, okay? And you brothers out there that's pushing that, you're following Christian doctrine. And you need to learn the proper breakdowns of these scriptures. You know, this is to edify you. Alright? Now, if we know what the truth is, and we know that the Most High's law is forever. Alright? Read verse 7.
But refuse or reject profane and old wives' fables, and exercise yourself rather unto godliness.
Okay, go ahead.
But bodily exercise profits little. But godliness, wait a minute, let me read that again. Yeah. For bodily exercise profits a little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having a promise of the life that now is, and of that which is to come.
That's right. One thing I just want to touch on is those old wives' tales. Now back then you had people telling fables and whatnot. But nowadays, you got. And I remember growing up, being around these women in these Christian churches, and there's a new form of old wives' tale, you know, and that's the understanding that anything I pray over, I can eat. You know, that's a tale. Let me give you some poison. Pray over that, eat that. See, if you drop dead or not. All right, that's madness. You can't just eat anything. All right, you got to get this understanding. All right, we've just broken it down. So you know that those who made people abstain from meats, and that word meat, it really just means food when you look it up. All right, but the people were already around back then. He wasn't talking about the righteous Israelites who followed the Mashiach. Okay? As a matter of fact, let's get it. We got another witness to that. Let's bring that out. We talked about the Nazarene. Now one of the early so-called church fathers, what's his name? Epiphanius. He mentioned two groups amongst the Essenes, who in one group was even calling themselves Nazarenes. But we're the real Nazarenes, right? But you see it that some had even departed from the faith back then and went off. They went from the correct doctrine and held on to their identity, but went amongst the Essenes and called themselves Nazarenes. Now let's find out what their beliefs were. We've given you two witnesses on groups who were around back then who forbid people to eat meat, all right, and forbid people to marry. We're going to give you a third witness from an early so-called church father who has the same information, just to make this thing hit home, to make it stick, because this is not talking about unclean meats.
The church father Epiphanius, writing in the 4th century CE, seems to make a distinction between two main groups within the Essenes.
Okay, the Epiphanius, he wrote in the 4th century. All right, go ahead.
Of those that came before his time and during it, the Essenes and the Nazarene.
So you had the Essenes and the Nazarene, two distinct groups amongst the Essenes. Remember, like I said, these were not the real Nazarenes who followed the Mashiach. Go ahead.
Epiphanius describes each group as follows. The Nazarene. They were Jews by nationality, originally from Gilead.
Gilead. Go ahead.
Bashanatius and the Transjordan. They acknowledged Moshe and believed that he had received laws. Not this law, however, but some others.
See, they try to lie against Moshe and said he received laws, but not this law. Of course, yeah, he didn't receive their law, but he did receive the laws from the Most High. Go ahead.
And so they were Jews who kept all the Jewish observances, but they would not sacrifice or eat meat.
So these Jews, they kept all the observances, but they didn't want to sacrifice or eat meat. See? Now that's a false doctrine. Amongst the Essenes. Go ahead.
They considered it unlawful to eat meat or make sacrifices with it. They claim that these books are fictions and that none of these customs were instituted by the Bible.
devils back then. All right? But I bet you many of you do not know this because you never researched it. Some of you who study on it with the mindset of Christianity, you just read it and you make your own understanding and you get your own understanding out of it without really digging into these scriptures and digging into the history. Go ahead.
This was the difference between the Nazarenes and the others. After this, Nazarene sect, in turn, comes another closely connected with them called the Mosaic.
Now touch on them. These were converts. Go ahead.
These are Jews, like the former, originally came from Nabatea, Eritrea, Moabitus, and Areolis, the lands beyond the basin of what sacred scripture called the Salt Sea.
Yeah, so these people, they were Jews, but they were from other lands, other nations. Go ahead.
Though it is different from the other 6 of these 7 sects, it causes schisms only by forbidding the books of Moshe, like the Nazarene.
That's wicked as hell. These people forbid the books of Moshe, just like some of you people are trying to do. Sit on that? All right, so you can clearly see these doctrines of demons, these doctrines of devils were alive and well back then. But it was not talking about people who keep Torah. It's talking about people who teach celibacy, forbidding you to marry, which the Most High told us to get married, be fruitful, multiply, and also abstain from all meat, which the Most High said you don't have to do that. He told us in Leviticus chapter 11, Deuteronomy 14, these are the meats that you can eat, okay? And he sanctified these. He set them apart. That's what that means. He made a distinction between the clean and the unclean. Okay, and he told us to be holy as he is holy by eating clean meat, not unclean meat. All right, so that should be clear. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 3 through 5 has been broken down. The proper understanding has been brought through the Spirit of the Most High. All praises to the Most High.
Yeah.
All right, anything on that?
Well, I mean, well, this may seem simple to most, but at the same time, simplicity and common sense is not common. And because of that, a lesson like this is always needed. So we can get back to the basics on what we should be doing, our mindset, and also to the people who may not know what it is to keep the law righteously, whether it's through marriage or through eating lawful meat. I'm not saying processed and all this or whatever, as long as it's properly kept.
Right, that's another lesson.
That's another lesson. But for the most part, we hope that you all been edified by this, because this was certainly needed, because we got Israelites out here nowadays that are teaching that we can eat clean, unclean food.
Yeah, that's a shame.
So that's what I get on that.
And those lessons, I've seen those lessons in the straight up Christian doctrine, man. It's Christianity. We're bringing the truth. The thing is, like I keep saying, this is the fourth lesson that we've been doing on this in this series. And I keep saying, man, this stuff is elementary. When you wake up and you find out that you're an Israelite, you're supposed to be taught these things. Okay? All right.
The year's 03, I'm in a 91 Caprice. Drop heat for the street and let them know about me. Right before I turned PI, MP, I was hitting licks on missions. Asked the homie Ice B. Every day we hit the swap meet. Pro Club, white tee, ambitions as a hustler. Gotta get that guap B. Vegas nights, I'm in and out the Mandalay. $1,000 an hour. You could say I graduated. Candy painted Cadillac. Chopping on them gator blades. Stable full of bad.